Welcome to Mimi's Math Channel. Today I will demonstrate how to find the slope of a line that passes through points. So the first thing that you need to know is what the slope is. So the slope is the rise over run, and it's usually represented by the variable m. So you may sometimes see like this little triangle that means delta, and it represents change in y over the change in x. And when we're talking about a graph, on the coordinate plane, the y-axis is the one that goes up and down, and the x-axis is the one that goes left and right. So rise and run. You can also find the slope by using the slope formula, which is y sub 2 minus y sub 1, all divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. You may also see in the directions it's at another time that it's going to be saying the average rate of change. That's what AROC means, and it's the same formula. And then we also have a variety of slopes. We have a positive slope, a negative slope, zero slope, and undefined slope. So positive is when it's going upward. So whenever you're reading a graph, you always read from left to right or from bottom to top. So from left to right is going up, that's positive. From left to right is going down, that's negative. From left to right here, this is a zero slope because it's going horizontally across the y-axis. And then the undefined slope is the one that's up and down or vertical, and that crosses your x-axis. So let's go ahead and get started. For our first example, we're asked to find the slope of a line that passes through the points -2, 7, and 4, 4. I went ahead and I labeled my x sub 1 and y sub 1, my x sub 2 and my y sub 2, because when I want to do the work algebraically, this will be helpful. Now, if your teacher or your directions do not explicitly state which method you have to use, I'm giving you an option of 3. So for my table, I want to go ahead and for my x columns, put in my x numbers, and then for my y column, put in my y's, but they have to go with the right pair. So for the first one, I have -2, 7, and 4, and 4. So what I'm asking myself is, what's the change from 7 to 4? Well, what I notice is that I'm going downward. So on my y-axis, I'm looking at 7 and I'm going down 1, 2, 3. I had to go down 3. If I'm ever going down or to the left, that means that I'm going to put a negative in front of the number. Now on my x column, I am going from -2 to 4. So this time I'm going positive. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I'm ever going to the right or up, then it's going to be a positive number. In this case, it was +6. I said above that our slope is rise over run. Rise is your y and run is your x. So we're going to start with the change in y, which was -3. And then the change in x was +6. You want to simplify this or reduce it. So I'm going to divide both the top and the bottom by the greatest common factor, which is 3. And so I have -1 over 2. That's my slope. No matter which method I use, if I'm doing this correctly, I will get the same slope. Let me just show you, what if I was a person who said, well, I wanted to start with 4 and 4. Let's see what happens in that case. So if we did 4 and 4 first, and remember this is x and this is y, and then we did the -2 and the 7 second, this is really number line. So this is my x number line and this is my y number line. So let's go to the y one. We started at 4 and we're going up to 7. So this time there's a change of +3. What about for our x? For our x, we went from 4 to -2. So it's still 6, but it's -6. And it makes sense because 4 minus 6 is -2. But we still have the same formula, which is rise over run. And once I simplify that, I still end up with -1/2. Let's go ahead and algebraically substitute what we know. Again, take the time to label your work because it's so much easier to just substitute it in. So I know I have 4 minus 7 on my numerator, and then I have 4 minus -2 in my denominator. So pay attention to a negative and a negative, okay? So once you simplify that, the numerator is 4 minus 7, which is -3. And the denominator, a negative times a negative, turns into a positive. So that's going to be 4 plus 2, which is 6. And again, once I simplify this, that's going to be -1/2. We already know that's going to happen because we're just using a different method, but we're still using the same coordinates, so it should still give us the same answer. All right, so now graphically, we're going to go ahead and plot -2 and 7, going over to the left, -2 on my x-axis, and then up on my y-axis at 7. Then going over to the right on my x-axis 4, and on my y-axis 4. And what I notice is before I even connect it, I can see that it's going from left to right, it's going downward. So that tells me I'm going to have a negative slope. But I already knew that because it had a negative in front of my slope already, right? So whenever you are actually graphing, make sure that you put your arrowheads on your line because that indicates that it's going to go on forever and your slope will never change on this line. So let's use the formula, which is rise over run, right? And I am remembering that my rise means up and down and my run means left and right. So going from one point to the other, I have to go down and then I have to go to the right. So how far down did I go? I went 1, 2, 3. So -3, because again, down and left means a negative. And then I went over how far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my slope is still -1/2 once I simplify that -3/6. All right, so let's go to example 2. This is the last example. And this time I changed my x sub 1 and x sub 2's around. So I put the x sub 2 and y sub 2 first and then the 1's second, just to let you know, it does still work. For me, I like to change my fractions to decimals because it's easier to see where the numbers fall on the graph. So I'm going to take 9 and I'm dividing it by 2, and that tells me that that's going to be 4.5. And 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. Using my table method, I have 4.5 and 5, and then I have 0.5 and -3. So let's go over to the graph, which I'm using just for a number line. All right, so if I'm trying to go from 5 to -3 on my y-axis, I would have to go down. So 5 to -3 so that's -8, which represents my rise. And then I go to my x-axis, 4.5. And what do I need to do to get to 0.5? Well, 4.5 is in the middle here. And 0.5 is right here. So I went to the left. So that means it's a negative, and I went over 4. So -4. So I know that a negative divided by a negative turns into a positive. And so 8 divided by 4 is simply 2. This is my slope. Now, if you're asked to put it in fraction form, then your slope will be 2/1. All right, so algebraically, if I wanted to substitute, like I said, I chose to use this set first, but you could use this set. It does not matter. So my y sub 2 this time is going to be 5. So 5 minus -3, and then 4.5 minus 0.5. So now when I simplify, I have to pay attention again. I have a negative times a negative. That's going to become a positive. So that's 5 plus 3, which is 8. And then 4.5 minus 0.5, I just take the 0.5s away, and I'm left with 4. Now, if I simplify this, 8 divided by 4 is 2. Going on to the graphing portion, the first thing I want to do is plot the points. So I have 4.5 on my x-axis, and then I go up 5 on my y-axis, and a point is in between. So make sure you pay attention to that. And then I also have 0.5 -3, and that is going to be here. Looking at my graph, I see that it's from left to right. I'm going upward, so I'm going to have a positive slope, which makes sense. I don't have a negative in front of it. It's a positive number. So I go ahead and connect this, making sure that I'm putting my arrowheads on there. So this time I'm going from this point to that point. I'm going up 8 units. And then I want to go to the right, which means it's going to be a positive number. If I simplify, 8 divided by 4 is 2. So my slope for the information that was given in the problem is going to be 2. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Have an awesome day.
Subscribe.